In this video, continuing our series where we do a deep dive into each and every affiliation in the game. We are eventually on Defenders. Yes, it has been a minute, but we're going to do a deep dive and take a look at how the Defenders play in this post-War of the Kings world in Marvel Crisis Protocol. Hey guys, Rich from Rich Big Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. Welcome to this, another MCP video, and it hasn't quite been a month, but it has almost been a month. I've had lots of things going on. I do apologise. I've had trips away over to Ireland for an MCP event that was absolutely amazing. It has been Easter. We've been having work on the house, and my actual real job has, it's been really busy. So I do apologise. But yeah, we are back and we are taking a look at the Defenders, an affiliation that for a long time in this game really was underrepresented. They didn't get a lot of love. The characters were fine. They were limited to one 5-threat leader. But I think it's fair to say that now when you take a look at Defenders, sorry, not Avengers, when you take a look at Defenders, they've got a lot of really good things going for them. I really like their roster of characters. I think they've got one of the most diverse roster of characters in the game, and also the playstyles. You can really adapt lots of different playstyles now when you pick up and take a look at the Defenders affiliation. So without further ado, let's jump in and let's start. And as we like to do, we're going to start by taking a look at each leader in turn, and then we'll give some ideas around the types of characters that we want to take with that leader. We'll take a look at tactics cards, and then at the end of all of it, I will put a roster together. But I want to emphasize, in fact, let me go back to this part for it. I want to emphasize, don't see this as the roster that I'm building is the best roster for Defenders. The idea of this roster is to give you some ideas on the types of characters that you want to be taking with you, depending on which leadership you're taking, whether they're in or indeed outside of affiliation. And this is going to be a little bit different because this is going to be, I think, the first time I'm going to be taking more than one leader, as a little spoiler there for you. So yeah, let's jump in and let's take a look, and let's start with the OG leader himself, Dr. Stephen Vincent Strange, the non-Sorcerer Supreme version. So this is the original Doctor Strange. No changes have ever been made to this guy's card. But actually, in my view, he still really holds up as a 5-threat character. Yes, as a 5-threat, don't take the gems. They are a trap. So he is a 5-threat leader. And for a long time, that was one of the problems with Defenders, was only having access to a single 5-threat leader, especially when you look at some of the other types of characters that were in affiliation and the threat levels of the characters that are in affiliation. It made playing Doctor Strange very difficult. They also had, no great tactics cards and things like that. But what is Doctor Strange bringing? Well, it brings a couple of different things. First of all, his attacks. On Bolts of Bedevilment, which is range 4, he does get a short push, omnidirectional push, if he deals damage, which is really nice. Crimson Bands of Sitarak will guarantee a stagger, but if you hit that Mystic Binding, you're going to be able to activate that character. And if you imagine going up against somebody who's, say you're 16 threat, going up against somebody and you just activate their big 6-7 threat character, can have a huge impact in the game. Going to skip the leadership for a moment. He's got med pack on a stick, effectively. Spend 3, remove 3 damage from himself or somebody else within 2. Hoggoth Hoary Wisdom is going to boost defense dice. He can reroll failure results, and he can reroll all of his attack or defense dice once per attack, making it much easier to trigger that Crimson Bands of Sitarak. And then whenever he rolls dice, if he rolled at least 1 block, he gains a power. Has flight, and then as we see, gem bearer for soul and time, but you don't need to worry about that. So, Mystic Empowerment and Affiliation Defenders. Once per turn, when an allied character declares an attack before choosing a target, it may spend 1 power. If it does, you may choose whether this attack type is physical, energy, or mystic. If this attack deals damage, the target character gains the Hex special condition. This is really interesting. It's obviously really designed from an attrition front, and it's got some strange and unique timings that we'll get into in a moment. But effectively, what this allows you to do is change the attack type of any attack. Any attack that you make, whether it's a builder, whether it's a spender, whether it's off a tactics card, right? Whatever it is that you're doing, and turn it into whatever attack type you want. So you can bypass a character's strongest defense, any defensive tech that they've got. And the idea with this is that you're just maximizing the damage you do. And then as a kicker at the back end, you're going to dish out that Hex special condition. We'll take a bit more of a deep dive and look into that in a moment. Doctor Strange does bring a couple of tactics cards with him. 7 Sons of Cinnabus. This is fine. Like, it's fine. If you need a 10th card to go in there, then yeah, why the hell not? Vapors of Valtor. Really, really not a fan of this card. And then the other one, and I will address this in a little bit, is the Pentagrams of Faralar. Not a fan of this card, and I'll sort of get into that because I know there's a whole Defenders play style around playing around the pentagram. This does work with Wong as well, but yeah, I'll get into that in a little bit. So overall, you know, Doctor Strange, I really like him as a leader. I think he's a solid character, brings a lot of utility, brings some control. And I think it's a pretty solid leadership that he brings with him as well. Okay, our second leader then for Defenders is going to be the Daredevil of Hell's Kitchen, Matt Murdock. Talk about a glow up. This guy got a huge glow up in, I think it was 2024 updates. He wasn't a leader before, so he gained the leadership. Matt does everything that you would expect, you know, Daredevil to do. So, you know, he can ignore line of sight and stealth. He's got a big area attack that he does that pushes everybody away. But what we're really interested in is that Marvel Knights Affiliation Defenders. Once per turn, an allied character may reroll a number of its attack dice equal to the number of enemy characters within 2 of itself. So it's rerolls, right? It's rerolls, but it's rerolls based on how many people you have around you. I think it's really nice. I think it's very thematic. Notice that it's not reliant on characters being non-dazed or non-grunt. So dazed characters will count. Grunt characters will count towards this as well. But you do need to be within range too, which, as you'll see when we go through some of the character choices, really does limit the types of characters that you want to be taking with Matt Murdock. Up close and personal, you know, is really where he's at. Once again, much like Doctor Strange, I really like Daredevil as a leader. And I like the fact that whilst they're both attrition focused, they do it in a very, very different way. And I do really like the fact that we've got options now, and have had for quite some time, for different threat levels. So it really means that you can mix things up depending on what threat level you're coming up against and what crisis setup you have got. So I mentioned it already, but they really do have such a wide and vast variety of characters. You know, everything from 2-threat Wong, right, through to Amazing Spider-Man, through to the Immortal Hulk, and kind of everything in between. We've got threat ranges all the way down from 2 all the way up to 7. We've got a number of big hitting 5 threats that we can choose from, a plethora of 3 threats that are really, really good. And really, I would say they're an affiliation that you can really go mono on, right? You can really just take Defender's characters with you. You can take in whatever splash characters you want, obviously, but I think that just looking at their roster of characters, they are good enough to be able to carry themselves and be able to pick and choose from just the Defender's characters and be able to put together a really, really nice roster, which we will do at the end of this video. Okay, so let's take a look then at Doctor Strange himself and the types of characters that we maybe want to bring with us, and a couple of gotchas when it comes to that leadership, in particular, mystic empowerment. So let's just recap. Once per turn, we get to spend power after we declare an attack, but before we choose a target, okay? If we spend the power, we then get to change the attack type to be whatever attack type we want, energy, physical, or mystic. And then if we deal damage, the target character gains a hex special condition. So it is so generic, right? It will work on absolutely anybody. But there are some compounding effects that we can take a look at. So if we were to take a look at Wolverine, for example, and take his adamantium slash, well, we've got a pierce on there, right? So we're increasing our likelihood of doing damage. It's only a 5 dice builder, but it's pretty darn good. But we're also dishing out a bleed. So actually we can dish out both a bleed and a hex, which, is quite nice. But there are, as I mentioned, a couple of other examples. Let's go into some of the more complex attacks and make sure we understand the benefits and the limits to each of these. So let's take Hulk, for example, okay, who is, by the way, also a defender. And let's say that we are going to spend 3 power for a thunderclap. We decide we're going to spend the extra power, but we're actually going to keep it energy. So that's the first thing, is we don't need to change the attack type. So if it's an energy attack, and an energy attack is the best one for us with who we're targeting, we can still spend the power and we can still get the benefit of dishing out the hex special condition. So that's the first thing. Second of all, this is a beam attack, okay? And there's a little bit of there was for a long time a little bit of confusion around this, but the way that this leadership works is you pay for it before we've targeted anybody, and then nothing goes back for you to check and change. They're all part of the same attack action. And even though it says declares an attack, it affects the whole attack action. So this means that if we were hitting 3 people with Hulk's Thunderclap, and we do damage to all 3 of them will gain the hex special condition, not just the first attack that is made. Let's take a look at another part of it then. If this attack deals damage. So let's take Hulk Smash, okay? And let's say that we're super unfortunate, right? We've paid our 4 power for a Hulk Smash, and then we've spent another power to be able to use Mystic Empowerment to turn it, I don't know, as a Mystic attack, let's say, for argument's sake. We completely whiff, but we do get our throw off, okay? We do get our throw. So we throw a character, they don't have brace, and they take a damage. Okay, that would not trigger the hex because it's not the attack that is dealing the damage, it's a trigger off the back of the attack. And that applies for anything, right? People like Bucky who have got a trigger who do attacks, people like Agent Venom who have got triggers that then do extra damage, any throws, anything like that. This isn't going to work. It needs to be damage from those dice that you roll doing direct damage to that character. And then the last one is then sort of in line with the beam. And by the way, area attacks are going to work exactly the same as beam attacks. Is going to be somebody like Punisher. So Punisher has his hip fire and he's got a rapid fire on there. You can pay the power once, okay, for the hip fire. And let's say we want to turn it into a mystic attack. The follow-up attack will not benefit from that mystic empowerment. So it will no longer be a mystic attack and it would no longer dish out hex if it did damage. The reason why is this is after the attack is resolved. it may make one additional hip fire attack. It's got to target the original character, yada, yada, yada. But we are essentially making a separate attack that is different to that initial attack that was made. If you want clarification on these, just go to the MCP forums, type in Mystic Empowerment. There's 4 or 5 posts on there, but this is how it works. And lastly, reactive attacks. I didn't put an example up here, but if you've got a character like a Sabretooth, for example, who gets a reactive attack, they can do a clapback. There is a window of opportunity to be able to spend a power and do that during that clapback turn as well. Let's take a look at another part of Doctor Strange's card then. And again, this is something that you can really build around. And that's Hoggoth's Hoary Wisdom. Maybe my favourite name of any superpower in this game. When this character or an character within 3 of this character is targeted by an attack, this character may use this superpower. Add 2 dice to the target character's defense roll against this attack. This takes 3 threat characters, 4 threat characters with a 3s across the board or 4-3-3 stat line and just increases their defensive capabilities exponentially. The example I'm going to use here is Luke Cage. Luke is a great defender. He brings a really nice tactics card in Heroes for Hire, which this really helps as well. But he's also got too dangerous to ignore. So the idea being that you want to put those attacks into Luke whenever you can, because he has more of a ability to be able to soak them up. He's got that 4-3-3 stat line. He's got 6 stamina, and he also reduces all damage taken by 1. All of a sudden, him going to a 6-5-5 is really, really nice. Now, you can, and I've seen lists built around, purely around this. This almost acts as like a secondary leadership in some lists, where, you know, you've got characters like Cable in there who are boosting. You know, you can use this in Steve's Avengers and it's really, really good, but we're not talking about Avengers today. So this is really, really nice. And I do like this superpower that he brings just to keep a character or increase the chances of a character being kept on the board for that much longer. Okay, let's take a look then at no longer the ballerina of Hell's Kitchen, most definitely the devil of Hell's Kitchen. That is going to be Marvel Knight. Affiliation defenders, once per turn, an allied character may reroll a number of its attack dice equal to the number of enemy characters within 2 of itself. So, what are we looking at here? Well, we're looking at realistically up close and personal, right? There are situations where you are making an attack and you've got 2 or 3 characters around you and the person that you're attacking is range 5 away, right? But it's rare, okay? Really what we're looking at is brawlers, up close, people who have got, you know, pretty good defense, but also have got really, really good offensive output as well. So example I want to bring up, and I think probably the best example, because he's just such a good character, is going to be Shang-Chi. Yes, his rising phoenix kick that you can use to get around. You're not always going to benefit from it because you might not be within range, range 2, but that 10,000 shape strike. So it's a range 2 attack, so you know you're going to be up close and personal. You already get to choose if this is physical or mystic. So he already has, let's say, 50%, because he doesn't get the hex and he doesn't get to choose energy, but 50% of Doctor Strange's leadership built into this. But he also has a stagger on a on a crit and a block, meaning that if you get to fish and reroll for those dice, it's going to increase your damage output, which is nice, but also increase your chances of being able to get that stagger off. So yeah, this is the type of character that you want to be looking for. If we go down to the bottom of his card then as well, he's also got ways of being able to get himself into better positions, right? So 5 elements fist. Let's say that we're not quite in the best position to be able to make that big attack with all of the rerolls. Well, we can use that 5 elements fist and we can advance ourselves at the back end of a 10,000 ships strike, get ourselves into a much better position in the mix with things. And then on that second attack that we do, we can then use those rerolls and really benefit from them. And why is he a good example as well as his attacking output is his supreme martial art, is the fact that if he's within 3, he's going to be adding blanks to all of his successors. And he's 4-3-4 already, so he's got pretty good defensive stat line. Only 5 stamina, which is his one downside, but even so, he does so much work on the table. And I missed pressing that. Let's take a look at his box counterpart, okay? Silver Sable. So Silver Sable, very much a back point holder. I get what they were going for with Silver Sable. I think they really, really missed the mark. But if you take a look at all of her attacks, okay, she is going to be on a back point, shooting people at range 5, and not able to benefit from that leadership whatsoever. Now, could quite nicely benefit from Doctor Strange's leadership, because you can be in a position where with that tactical takedown that's range 5, if you get a crit and a wild, okay, you get to do 3 things. You're going to be able to root them, you're going to be able to hex them, and you get to push them away, which is pretty darn brutal. But as you can see, this is not the kind of profile that we want to be looking for under Marvel Knights, right? It just isn't. Okay, with the leaders out of the way and the sort of character profiles we want to take a look at, let's jump in and take a look at the tactics cards. And they only have 4 to choose from, okay? We've got Cover Me, we've got Street Smarts, we've got Mystic Ward, and we've got the Pentagram of Faralar. Now, there are a couple here that I really like, and I think go straight in to any list, and that is going to be Cover Me and Mystic Ward. Cover Me during the power phase, an allied defender's character may spend 4 power to play this card. This round, after an attack targeting this character is resolved, another allied character may make an attack targeting the attacking enemy character. So really want to be putting this onto a Luke Cage-esque type character, a character who has multiple ways of being able to take attacks onto themselves. And then, hey, guess what? We get to react back and hit them back with a Hulk, potentially, or a Shang-Chi, or whoever it may be. And that reactive attack gets to use Mystic Empowerment from Doctor Strange, okay, because it's still once per turn, and also gets to use the Marvel Knights leadership because it's in your opponent's turn as well. So works really nicely under either leadership. Next up then we've got Mystic Ward. An allied defender's character may spend 2 power to play this card. Choose an objective token within 3 of the character that played this card and place a Mystic Ward token on it. The marked objective token cannot be interacted with, contested, or controlled this round. If a player is currently controlling the objective token, they are no longer controlling it. Remove this token during the next power phase. This is crazy, right? This just turns off a token, right? An objective token. Now, typically I see this being played on secures. I think generally because by the time you're getting into a position to use this, it's generally, any extracts have already been picked up. But just being able to turn off a secure objective that you are not contesting, but your opponent is, or have already spent resources to interact with and turn back online, and flip them, right, with pay to flips. This is absolutely huge, right? This can be a really, really nice VP swing and just denying your opponent those VPs. And again, both of these cards are going to work in most situations. I would say of both of them would 100% make my 10. The Mystic Ward is the one that probably makes my 5. 90% of the time, 95% of the time. And Cover Me, maybe it makes my 5 60% of the time. It really depends on the characters that I'm bringing. Next then, and this for me is fine as a 10th card again, is Street Smarts. It's still a pretty damn good card. During the power phase and a number of allied defenders may spend 1 power each to play this card. This round, when a character that played this card is holding or contesting an objective token, if it would be pushed, advanced, or thrown, it may suffer 1 damage. If it does, it is not pushed, advanced, or thrown. It's a weird one, right? The throw, it's really strong on, okay? Because if you don't have brace up and you would have been thrown, well, hey, guess what? You would have taken a damage anyway, and you would potentially be causing even more damage to a character that you were thrown into. But having to take a damage to stop the others feels a little rough. Don't get me wrong, the ultimate effect is really nice that nothing happens to you, but you can get into a position where your opponent is able to stack this up multiple times during a round, and you're like, oh, do I really want to take another damage? Do I really want to take another damage? So again, it's a little bit more situational for me. It can come in clutch, but having to take the damage is a bit of a downside. And then lastly, in red, we're using a traffic light system for this, is the Pentagram of Faralar. During the power phase, an allied Doctor Strange or an allied Wong may spend 3 power to play this card. Place a Mystic token within range 1 of the character that played this card. Then place another Mystic Portal token within 5 of the same character. At any time during a character's activation, both yours or your opponent's, while within 1 of a Mystic Portal, it may spend 1 power. And basically they get placed within range 1 of the other Mystic Portal. So for a while, and I think it maybe still exists for some people, there was this quote unquote defenders portals where you would, round 2, Wong would create the portal. Usually Wong, not Doctor Strange, and you would create it in such a way that you had full control over your end of the portal, so nobody else could get to it. You blocked it off, so your opponent couldn't spend the power and teleport to it, because if they can't fit, then tough. A character would then, during their turn, use the portal, get into your opponent's half of the board, do everything that they wanted to do, displace, daze, KO, steal objectives, pick up objectives from characters that you'd, KO'd and things like that, or dazed, and then use the portal to get back to safety. I came up against it playing Winter Guard. I came up against it playing Thralls of Dracula. Came up against it playing Guardians of the Galaxy. And I don't know if my opponents were just playing it bad, but I've never really seen this work to any great effect. I think it's a little gimmicky. I prefer good, honest MCP for the most part. I might take some smatterings of very good characters, but, ultimately good, honest MCP. And I just don't think this is really that good. I really don't. I think there are so many characters now in the game that can disrupt this. It's a beam attacks dream. Everyone is close by, so you've got long movers now, long movers with charges, medium movers on medium bases with charges that can get up there really, really easily. It's a concentration of characters, so you're neglecting other parts of the board. For me, not a big fan of this style, not a big fan of this card. Don't get me wrong, when you used to be able to use this turn 1 and do some really clever things with it for steals and other such things, it was really good. But now that's gone away. I'm just not a big fan of it. For me personally, there are probably videos out there on how to play it. It's not the right play style for me. I think it's very, very easily countered with what we have access to nowadays in the game. So for me, it's a red card. It doesn't make any list ever. I'm not a fan of it. Okay, so we've gone through kind of some leader-specific characters. We've given you a bit of an overview of Defenders as an affiliation. What we haven't got into yet is the really cool stuff and some of the unique things that Defenders have and some of the characters that Defenders have that nobody else in the game has or can just do a really, really good job for them. So let's start out and let's talk about the fact that they have 2 midline extract grabbers in Affiliation. Okay? 2. They've got both Namor and Amazing Spider-Man. And they both do very, very different things as you get further into the game. But turn 1, they're both doing the same thing. They're both running up. They're picking up an extract. And then they're getting back to safety. Now, depending on the setup, the layout, will determine whether you want to take either, whether you want to take one, or whether you want to take both of these. And as I say, they both do very, very different things. Both work, relatively well under either leader. Amazing Spider-Man, his Spider Strike is range 3, so you're not always going to get the benefit of those rolls, but he does bring some other things with him as well. Obviously, Namor brings those rerolls himself, so again, he's doubling down on that attrition side of the game. He can also displace a whole bunch of characters. He's got that movement on his trident, which means he can get into a much better position for that second attack, as we spoke about with Shang-Chi. Ignore the time gem. It's not worth it. And he's got a charge as well, which is quite nice. He also brings a great card as well, Prince's Protection, meaning that he can take a hit for somebody, then push everybody away as well. So, yeah, only Affiliation in the game. Let me rephrase that. Only true Affiliation, okay? So I don't include Dormammu. Not that they're not true affiliations, but with only Affiliation with a affiliation list of characters attached to it that have access to both or 2 of the 3 safe midline extract grabbers. Yeah, that is a huge plus, especially with some of the new extracts that we now have in the game. Next up, they have a Wong. Wong's really good, and Wong's really good for a number of reasons, okay? That thing that Doctor Strange could do, where you heal somebody, he can do that. Yes, it costs an action, but it costs less power. And it's only 2 damage, but hey, guess what? You can also remove a special condition as well. And the character can only be affected by it once per round, meaning you can do it multiple times, or a maximum of 2 times. He's also a faithful assistant. He can spend 2 power and give somebody else 1 power. So, let's just go back to Namor a second, right? We're talking about the fact that, you take the time gem and you get to do Imperious Rex round 1, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? I can just bring a Wong, give him the extra power, and he can do that round 1 anyway. And I'm not having to take a 6-threat Namor that I'm tied into. He does so much. He's a great back point holder. If you are taking him with Doctor Strange, he does get... he goes from a 3/3/3 up to a 4/4/4, which is absolutely crazy. A 6/6/6 if you want to boost him with Doctor Strange as well. He is a great, what I want to call, quote unquote, almost like a non-activation, right? You can be in a position, especially not always round 1, but sometimes round 1, depending on whether or not there is a midline to grab. If there's a midline to grab and you have priority, you probably want to go grab that midline and come back. But let's say after that, let's say, your turn 2, okay? Well, actually, I don't really want to be now moving my characters up the board. Let's say my opponent's gone and grabbed the other extract, right? And there isn't another extract to grab, there's just 2, right? Or we grab the first one and there is no more. Well, I now don't really want to commit to move people forward. I don't want to double move somebody up to a middle point and leave them there exposed. So Wong's a really good character to just be able to go, okay, cool. I'm going to move up to a back point. And as long as it's not a pay to flip, I'm going to meditate to generate 1 power. And then I'm going to use Faithful Assistant and I'm going to hand a power off to whoever else it is that can really make use of this extra power turn 1, and job done, okay? We've been able to secure our back point. We've been able to power up another character, all whilst not moving any of our models forward. and not exposing any of them, really putting the ball back into our opponent's court to then progress and move forward. So I really, really like Wong. And then lastly, let's talk about the fact that they have double Hulk. Now, just to clarify, you can't run double Hulk, okay, because they're both Bruce Banner. You can take them both in your roster if you want, but you can't play both of them in the game because they both have the same alias, being Bruce Banner. They're the only affiliation in the game, again, that have a list that have access to both Immortal Hulk and Hulk. Now, which one's better? Which one works best under the leaderships? It's down to personal preference, right? They can both make really good use of either leadership. My personal preference, and this is just my personal preference of Hulks in general, is I feel like the original Hulk does more throughout a game, but Immortal Hulk can still be absolutely crazy and really, really good as well. So it just really depends on the matchup, your play style, what it is you want from there. And obviously we have the threat difference as well, 6 versus 7. So it depends on what you're looking at and what you want to go for. And then lastly, I do want to just give a big shout out to Magic, okay? Magic's a great 3-threat character. Now, she didn't make my list just because I didn't have room for it, but she's absolutely a character who you could use. Okay, she benefits from either leadership. Journey Through Limbo is a really, really good card. And I believe she's on the list for May. We're now in May. She's on the list to get a bit of a bump, okay? As in get a bit of an update and become a little bit better. So I haven't included her in this video, but when the new character cards get revealed and the updates and we see what's gone up and what's gone down, don't be surprised if you see Magic not only in Defenders but in a lot of other places as well. So just one to watch out for. Okay guys, so that is our breakdown. As I mentioned with all of these, I have built a roster. I'm going to say it again guys, this is not the greatest Defenders roster that has ever been built. It just gives you an idea. And if I was to start playing Defenders, which I often do start playing affiliations after I've done one of these affiliation lists, I actually took my Avengers roster over to Ireland for an event a couple of weeks ago and finished 4th overall, going 4-1, only losing out to, I think it was an X-Men player. Who ultimately went on to come second. But that was the exact same roster that I built during one of these videos. So if I was to start out, this would be something like what I would be starting out with. So we do have both leaders in play. We've got Doctor Strange and we've got Daredevil. And that's really for being able to flex up and down with the threat points, but also bringing slightly different things depending on the setup, depending on what I'm playing against, and depending on who my opponent is and what affiliation and what characters they are bringing. We do have Amazing Spider-Man and we do have Namor in there. I want both of them in there as options, and you'll see why with one of the cards that we've brought. And then rounding it out, we've got a Hulk, and as I say, for me, I prefer the OG version of Hulk, but you could very, very easily swap this out with the 7th threat version. We've got Luke Cage. Again, he does a really, really good job in Defenders. We've got Man-Thing, a newer character who I really, really like. I really like Man-Thing. I think he does a really, really good job, especially for a 3-threat. He can sit in the middle of the board and cause some really, really big problems. We've got Shang-Chi, because of course, if Shang-Chi is affiliated, you probably want to be taking him. I brought Wolverine along as well. I really like Wolverine. I really like that combination of Wolverine being powered up by Wong and then Wolverine just popping off, using the best at what I do and just absolutely brutalizing people on the board. So I do like me some Wolverine. Let's take a look then at the crisis cards that we have brought. Let's start off then with Deadly Meteors. I think this is really nice, right? We have got characters who can dish out power. We've got characters who generate multiple power per turn. And this is keeping things in nice and close, okay? I think this is a really, really nice attrition-focused pay to flip. And 17 is a pretty good threat level for us. We've also got M-Cran Crystals, Gets Heroes Home. This is a bit like the old sword base, but this is the one where basically we're going to be able to do a pay to flip, but you just roll one die and it's a 50-50 chance. Why is this really nice for us? Well, we have characters who can get to 3 of these in a single activation. So you start off on 1, you move over to the second one, and you move up to the third one. So we've got characters that have got a 50-50 shot on 3, and it can be a huge VP swing for us. And lastly, I've gone for Mayor Fisk. Mayor Fisk, again, is nice and close, but we've got some characters, quite a few characters, right, who are immune to stun, meaning that we're going to be able to contest these without worrying about the side effects. We've also got characters who happen to be the ones that are immune to stun, or at least 2 of them who have healing factor, so they're less concerned about this as well. And again, 16 throughout, we can start to put together some really interesting squads together. Fear Grips, right? Why would we not? Okay, why would we not take Fear Grips? We've got those 2 midline extract grabbers, and they're going to work really well for us on this, especially in an affiliation that is attrition focused. Being able to do, roll more dice is going to mean more damage, meaning that we get to really snowball and accelerate that game and our gameplay. Inhumans deploy advanced weaponry. If you position Namor and you position ASM correctly, so basically straight down the middle of both of these, you can get to all 4 of these objective tokens and then get away safely. It's really nice. Yes, we're not going to be able to add additional dice or modify your dice during the attack, but it will work with Doctor Strange's leadership. So these beam attacks, we can use Doctor Strange's leadership to be able to turn it from a energy into a physical or into a mystic, which again can be really nice. And then lastly, Montesi Formula. Again, single midline extract grab, and again, those beams can be used. They can't be used with Matt Murdock with Daredevil's leadership, but they can be used with Doctor Strange's leadership. Really, if we have priority, we want to be pushing, as long as our opponent isn't running horrible secures for us, which really there isn't. I'm trying to think of an example. I don't think there's any that we can't deal with. Maybe a D map, but then we've got a lot of movement in Namor and in ASM, so even then we're not too concerned. But if we get priority, we want to be picking our extracts, okay? This is our goal. If we get priority, we want to be picking our extracts because we know that it's going to be advantage us on at least 2 of these, right? Fear Grips, our opponent may have a midline extract grabber. What I would say is, even with Fear Grips, it can be worth taking both midline extract grabbers, placing one at either side of the board, and then waiting for our opponent and seeing if they've taken the Namor, for example. Well, we've got first pick, and if they've put Namor on the left-hand side of the board, and we've put our ASM here, and we've got our Namor here, well, what do we choose? Where do we go first? We choose ASM first. We go up, we collect this one with ASM, and then we move back to safety. Because then they run the risk of, well, I now don't have a safe extract grab on this side, potentially. So whoever goes up there, well, hey, guess what? We can activate a Wong. Okay, we can give Namor a power. He can do his charge turn 1. He can get there, do some damage. and attack them again and potentially even take that, or they just don't go for it straight away. And again, we can run up with Namor, collect that extract, and then move back to safety. So we've got a lot of really, really nice play styles when it comes to midline extract grabs, especially turn 1, turn 2. Tactics cards, we went for Brace for Impact. We've got a Hulk, all right? We don't want to be getting thrown around by having a Hulk thrown into us. Chi Mastery, this is a must-take for Shang-Chi. We've gone with Cover Me. We've gone with Dimensional Quagmire. I really like this card. This causes a huge amount of problems for your opponent. Basically, whilst his character is not dazed until the end of this round, once per turn, the first time each turn an enemy character begins a movement within 3 of Man-Thing and ends that movement not within 3 of him, roll a dice. If the result is hit, crit, or wild, place the enemy character within 3 of Man-Thing. So this is a new thing that we've seen, whereby the range is if you're outside of this range when you finish your movement. A lot of the movement-based ones are if you're within. So basically, if your opponent decides that they are going to charge, okay, and they charge outside of range of Man-Thing, before they get to make the attack, you get to roll a dice. On a hit, crit, or wild, you can pull them back, not within 3 of their current position, within 3 of Man-Thing. So if they've run to one side of the board and Man-Thing's here, he can pull them back all the way over this side of the board. It can be absolutely brutal. Heroes for Hire, we know what it does. Great card. Mystic Ward, we went through. Really, really like this card. Patch Up, we know what Patch Up does. Prince's Protection, again, another nice reactive bodyguard type card. Recall Matrix and then Survival as my last 2. These you could swap out with any other 2 cards that you really like and feel comfortable running with. Again, depending on who you are bringing in your affiliation, right? You want to be filthy and take some Dracula? Well, Survival could turn into Warpath, for example, because, you get the benefits of both of these leaderships during those clapback turns as well. But there we go, guys. Let me know what you think of this roster. Let me know what you think of the Defenders. Are you playing Defenders at the moment? If you are, what do you like about them? Let's share everything down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Any hints, tips, tricks that you want to share with the community, they are always more than welcome. And lastly, do not see this as a definitive list as the best Defenders. The idea of this video is to give you an insight into the potential play styles of both Doctor Strange and Daredevil. But if you want, take this list, use it, play a few games with it, and then swap things out. If you find, do you know what, I'm never using Doctor Strange's leadership and Wolverine has never seen the table, not a problem. Take those characters, swap them out, change them up, put something else in there. The idea of these, as I say, is not to create you the perfect list that you should run with. This is not, Magic the Gathering where there is a meta that is you have to take this, this, and this. This game is very fluid and lots of different characters could easily be swapped in for any of the ones that I've brought along to this video. Guys, we're going to leave it there. I want to give a big shout out to all of our Patreon and YouTube members. Thank you guys so much for your support. It really does mean the world and just helps us make these videos much, much easier. And if you do want to support us, you can do so from as little as £1 a month. Link down in the description below for Patreon, or click that join button to become a YouTube member. But as always, you don't need to do any of those things. Just simply liking, commenting, subscribing really, really does go a long way to helping the channel. We are aiming for 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I have not helped the fact that I have not released a video in 3 weeks. That is on me, but you should be seeing at least one of these a week now moving forward, if not more, to try and catch up on some of the backlog, because we still have a long way to go to get all the way over to Weapon X, it might be. That might be the last one. I have to remember and work out what my alphabet is. Guys, check out the Discord if you haven't already. We do mostly monthly events on there. The May event will not be happening. I've got some other commitments this month that just mean that I cannot do all these videos and then run the event as well. So the event will not be happening this month, but it will be back for the month of June. So if you want to join the Discord, and you'll be able to see when that event goes up, probably towards the back end of May. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Thank you to Leodis Games, sponsor of the channel. Offer down in the description below. £5 off your first order. And as always, guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.